Hey, this is Frank with Adventures of Frank and Tina. I want to talk to you a little bit about the place I'm at today, which is a pretty special place. We're at the site of the Battle of New Hope Church. Right there is New Hope Church. Right there is the old New Hope Church. Still, the original church is still there. And they're still having services right there. But anyway, two things happened here. One thing was one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. It was called the Battle of the Hellhole. Battle of Pickett's Mill, New Hope Church in Dallas, and the Federal soldiers named it the Battle of the Hellhole. A bunch of those Federal soldiers and the Confederate soldiers are buried right here. And right here is the spot of where the battle took place. Another thing that happened, I don't remember that Civil War battle, of course, but my grandmother, I've got a secondhand story about it from this battle, from my grandmother, whose grandmother and grandfather lived here. And they were some of the ones that buried the soldiers and fought in the war too. And they were definitely affected by it. And my grandmother told me a secondhand story, but it was second person. It was from her grandfather, which was deemed a Civil War hero, fighting for the South. But anyway, this is another thing that happened here. The Battle of New Hope Church, not the Battle of New Hope Church, but in New Hope, Georgia. This is April 4th, 1977. I remember it. We drove out here and seen it and tried to help the people. My mom and dad did. This is April 4th, 1977. The worst aircraft disaster in Georgia history. On April 4th, 1977, the DC-9 Southern Airways Flight 242, flying from Huntsville, Alabama to Atlanta, encountered a dangerous thunderstorm over Rome, Georgia. The hail and rain the aircraft endured was so severe that both engines flamed out and the aircraft quickly lost altitude. The flight crew desperately attempted to land the DC-9 and on Georgia 92 spur, now known as Georgia 381, that's the road right behind me, which runs through the community of New Hope, which is right here. The result was the worst aircraft disaster in Georgia history, claiming 72 lives, including 9 local residents of New Hope. Miraculously, 22 passengers survived. Those people, if you ever watch the footage of that and anything of that, there were people walking out of the flames of that thing. I can remember seeing the airplane on the ground and all the ambulances and all that, and standing there and us just praying for those people. It was horrible. I was about 7 years old. I remember that well. Anyway, that happened right here. But another thing that happened right here was this battle that happened right here. There's the Confederate flag still flying proudly, and there's a reason for it. It's not hate. These people that fought in this battle here didn't have slaves. These were poor people that were in hill country. Wasn't good farming land. These people had to make do with what they had, and they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have slaves. And what happened when the Northern Army came through, they took everything they had. This come from my grandmother. They took everything they had. They raped the women. They took all of their meat animals. They took all of their horses and mules. And what they didn't take, they killed. They burned their houses and just treated them horribly. The Federal troops did. And I'm sure they did. And I'm sure the Confederates did the same way when they went through northern areas. I'm positive of it. People were mad. And people were doing lots of things they wasn't supposed to do. And as a result, my family was among some of the other ones that were burying the dead, and they gave all of the Southern soldiers a proper burial and a headstone. And they put all the Northern soldiers in a mass grave out here and just throwed them in a pit and barely covered them up. And didn't say words over them or nothing. Well, storm come through and washed that mass grave up, and all those bodies were exposed. And my grandmother said that her grandmother and grandfather told her that that was God tormenting them for the evil that they had done by not giving those soldiers a decent burial, that no matter what they did to them, that they didn't owe that back to them. So they dug up every single one of them and give them a proper Christian burial with a headstone and said words over their body. People in general are good people. They're not bad people. People get mad and do things that they shouldn't ought to do. And people follow other people's lead and do things they shouldn't ought to do. Slavery shouldn't have never happened. My family's always agreed with that. But we do support our Southern heritage. And we do not think of that Confederate flag as something racist or something wrong. And it wasn't that. It was fighting for our home is what it was. We still live here. My family still lives here. And that's what it's about. But a lot of times you don't see the other side of it. But there's absolutely nothing racist. I'm sure there's somebody has the absolute other side of it, and it offends their family, and I'm very sorry for that. But that wasn't why the people around here flew it. It was because this was their home and it was invaded. And as a matter of fact, my grandmother called it until the day she died in 2003. She called it the War of Northern Aggression. She never called it the Civil War. So anyway, here it is. It goes on for about a mile back yonder. And there's, a few more of these cemeteries right around here. A lot of people died in that battle. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And there's every type person buried in here. There's the Southern 242 fatality list. The people that died in that aircraft. That's exactly what that is. But there was a little over 500 people died in the battle here, and tell two different stories at the same time. And a little over 1,500 from the north, and a little under 500 from the south. So about 2,000 people lost their life here. But they said it was a very, very, very bad firefight. So it wasn't one of the biggest battles, but it was a very bloody one for what it lasted. Anyway, thank y'all for watching again. And I've got more stuff that's in our area, which is a lot of cool stuff. Anyway, y'all have a great day.